ようこそどうぞはじめまして
Hello everyone, welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. I think we're something on, for me anyway, day 70 of quarantine or something here. We're still here. Surprisingly, most anime still going. I think we only lost one show this week. So still things to talk about. But I know there's been a lot of cancellations floating around for next season, as we've been kind of expecting. But, you know, we're still here. Still got stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. But, we'll introduce everybody first. I'm Jel. And we're three-manning it today. We're a little short-handed, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm joined by Iroh.
I am also still here. Not dead yet.
Yes. Still with us. And also G.
I mean, the real reason why we're running a lean crew today is because the actual title of this week's podcast will be the BNA, Promare, and Trigger Discourse Power Hour.
Oh yes, we will have some things to say. We got a preview of that last episode with BNA finishing, and I finished it and had a few words to say, and I know you guys finished it since we last spoke.
Yeah,
so
what was that yesterday?
Yes.
There will be some discourse.
Yeah, I just want to get our audience primed and ready. I want them to get excited. We're gonna dig deep this week.
I will be. I think it's good. I think we intentionally held back on some of the discussion in our normal chat so that we can have some real live reaction here.
Live reactions, folks.
Yeah, real unscripted, raw. Which will
Blades
probably
will bleed.
Which probably means we'll all ultimately end up somewhat agreeing with each other anyway. But all right. So, before we do get started, I just want to mention on a serious note, something that's been big news for, really all of, the English-speaking anime fandom. We had the really pretty shocking, news about the loss of Zac Bertschy, who is, one of the guy at Anime News Network. One of the main people there. Of course, Anime News Network, as much as we kind of joke and give them a hard time sometimes, they are probably the most important English language anime website on the internet and have been for ever. And he was a huge part in making that happen. For me personally, I always really appreciated how he, in a fandom that can be very toxic and difficult to deal with, always stood up for, his values and upheld, basically, went against all that. And, that's something I always appreciated. And, he was also a very good writer and articulated his points very well. But that was always kind of the most important thing to me. And it was really, I didn't know what to say. It was just such a shock seeing that, he was a, young guy and everything.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
what can you even say when that kind of stuff happens? But, I feel like it was important for us to acknowledge that. And, the entire community is mourning that loss. So
definitely. I think it can't be understated that, again, despite whatever we, might have said in the past about, like, the website's editorial, I think that it is important to recognize that prior to the formation of Anime News Network, there is no codified transmission of information in the anime fandom, the English-speaking anime fandom. It is... prior to Anime News Network, the anime fandom gets its news entirely through rumor mongering and like poorly translated, press releases and magazine scans. It's entirely misinformation. It's entirely hearsay, and it is actually how, like, I think some of the most persistent rumors in the anime industry get spread around, is because of that older, primordial era of the anime fandom. And I think that Anime News Network really served a vital function in kind of, again, I'm not going to say that, completely unbiased news or anything like that, but they helped, bring clarity, bring some light to an industry that people liked, but, often struggled to truly understand because of the language barrier.
Yeah.
And, these days, I think that for people who didn't really, grow up with the anime fandom prior to that, really should be grateful that we now live in an era where, if you want to ask the question, hey, who worked on that anime? That's information you can look up now, and that is not just a poorly understood rumor or like a bad translation of somebody's name. It's definitely a different and I think largely better time we live in now regarding that.
Yep. So again, I don't know. I don't even know what else to say. It's such a tragic, sudden thing. But our condolences to his family and loved ones, and it's a big loss for our community. So.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Well, no good way to transition out of that, unfortunately.
I mean, other than into an anime that seems to be getting pretty if not serious, then seems to be
yeah,
going straight for the heart in the last couple of episodes.
So you have to tell me what's going on here.
So yes, let's kick things off by talking about Kakushigoto.
Yeah.
Which, as G has been implying, is their
Did their Hinamatsuri Anzu episode happen?
Oh, they're going hard.
they're going hard. The balance of power between comedy and tragedy are.
Comedy lost this fight with episode 7 onwards.
Yeah, episode 7. You think it's a fun episode about let's get a dog.
Oh no! Within the first 30 seconds, Gel, when I realized, this is the episode they get the dog, I realized, this is gonna be.
Has the dog been in the future segments or something, or?
The dog has been entirely absent from the future segments.
Okay.
They basically they go in hard on the your dogs only live 10 years or so enjoy every moment you have with them and everything.
Of course.
It's going full in on that.
Have they confirmed that Dad is truly dead in the future?
No. They continue to dance around it. Again, I am very confident at this point that Dad is not dead. That is. I just think that the way the show plays with its it plays out in the way it's toying with this reveal, I think.
Yeah, I think like we said last time, that would seem almost too cruel.
Yeah,
for
I
this
think at this
show,
point,
but
because of the kind of work this is, what's actually going to happen to his dad is still going to be something that's sad, but probably sad in a darkly funny way, because that seems to be
got canceled.
the show's MO. I mean, I think I said in a prior podcast, what if he's just in jail or something?
Yeah,
crimes.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I don't think the manga's finished, right? So I don't know how they're going to end this.
Oh,
I don't know if anybody even knows that answer yet.
I think for the sake of an anime, though, I think you would have to reveal it because.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. They're building up so much to it. I don't think you could just leave that hanging.
Because specifically because episodes 7 and 8, they are going they're spending more and more time in the future segments. At the beginning, it was 30 seconds at the end, a short vignette. But now it's we're getting
a whole part of the episode, right?
Yeah,
is in the future, right?
Despite that, though, I think that both episodes are still they do a good job of being sincere, but also and a little dark, a little tragic, but also they still manage to find their places to be to be funny. I think in episode 7, right, there's a Kakushi Sensei comes up with the 10 manga artist commandments or something.
Right.
Okay.
about how basically trying to be a better, more gracious manga artist. Episode 8 has arrives at the topic of anniversaries and
the
Kakushi's
asshole editor not
continues
understanding
to
how
be
anniversaries work.
a complete piece of shit. Like,
because he's getting all excited about a episode
the 38th anniversary or something.
38th anniversary, but doesn't
It's
understand.
gonna be the 40th.
But he doesn't understand.
Yeah,
but he doesn't understand why they should be excited about like their 100th chapter or something like that.
It's very good.
But yeah, I think probably one of the things the show does the best is balancing out those elements, and like even when they are bringing up like episode 8, they're bringing up heavy topics like, Kakushi Sensei realizing no matter what he does, the life that he's going to create is not going to be as good as the one where his wife lives.
Yikes!
Real light fun topics here.
I mean, that's let me tell you, that is the thing we've been trying to communicate this whole time. It's like, yes, Kakushigoto is a pretty funny anime, but it when it gets real, it gets real. Like, like that whole the whole scene is related to like, as an artist, let me tell you, this is a very real feeling of like the feeling that the final work never lives up to the rough draft. Like the rough draft when things were more spontaneous, when you were just like, in the early stages when you felt like you had the whole world in front of you and you could do whatever you want, and then as things start to get refined, it loses some of that spark, and then you're like, this is a pretty funny, relatable like topic, and then he manages to turn that into like an analogy for like his relationship with his dead wife, and it's like, oh no,
like
turn away from here.
So they reveal, was it like his father-in-law that's the painter?
Yeah, his father-in-law was the painter. Yeah.
So he finds a painting that, and he's not like on great terms with his father-in-law.
Yeah.
And he found a painting that he did of like what their family was going to look like in the future, and it was called like Rough Draft or something like that of the future or something like that. And they were really just twisting that knife.
Oh yeah, dude, this anime just loves twisting the knife. It's, again, I think it's like at this point it is kind of hard to describe Kakushigoto as a comedy. I mean, again, we still have 4 episodes left. I think that the show will continue to try to like carry that balance through, but at this point, like,
yeah, they're cashing in those chips on the heavier stuff.
Yeah,
and it's probably only going to intensify as we get closer to the end of the season. Right?
As much as I've been liking that, I do kind of hope this show remembers to come back up for air sometime, because
I do still feel like they don't dwell too much, like even like when they drop that thing, they go for the dramatic, he's running through the streets and they immediately
that part was
they stop him because he's about to run into a train, and like there's like a police officer holding him back or something like that, just to like lighten up the mood a little bit.
Fair enough.
So I feel like they're still trying to maintain the lighter tone to it, but I mean, when you're you can only get so light when you're covering those kind of concepts. So
it's still been,
it's good. It's good though.
It's good. Yeah.
And I'm, like I said, I'm curious to see how they're gonna wrap this up, given the ongoing nature of the source material.
Right. I am very curious. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna read the manga after this, but like, because if the manga is still ongoing, then did it keep going past the reveal of his dad's whatever happened to her dad, like to Kakushi Sensei, like, because like, how does that premise keep going after whatever that reveal is, right? Like,
yeah, and I feel like we need to know.
Yeah, but that's also, we can't end this season without knowing.
There has to be some kind of closure to that,
right? So
I don't know.
Very curious how they're gonna frame, and so the adventure continues with this sort of show.
Yes, when you've already shown the end game or whatever.
Yeah, or what feels like the end game, at least.
That's a dangerous ploy, but yeah. I feel like other than concerns about sticking the landing, it's been pretty great so far.
Definitely.
So. All right. Let's move along.
Speaking of comedies that are fucking killing it across the board, holy shit.
Oh, Kaguya-sama Love is War Season 2 has, they're making a play for best anime comedy of the decade.
They also went hard this week, but in a different direction. It's
yeah. Yes, it's interesting because episode 6. So episode 6 is the election that they've been working
and I'd
up
say
to.
that one is actually not that comedic. Like I'd say largely episode 6 is almost pure like drama, right? Or anime drama.
It's a little more. It's a little more serious. Yeah. Like because they have the election, and the one upstart girl that's trying to take them down is a terrible public speaker, and rather than just absolutely crush her, the president tries to help her out, to at least help her save face.
Yeah, it's a nice moment. It definitely it helps remind you, oh yeah, okay, yeah, the Kaguya-sama crew are kind of dirtbaggish sometimes, but they're not these are not Sabagebu tier people, right? These are still fundamentally decent people. Even Ishigami in that episode is yeah, I don't like her, but it really sucks that this happens to her every time.
Right.
It's
yeah, and they kind of, and then after the election, they're all kind of dealing with their own insecurities of, oh wait, am I actually going to be on the student council again?
Yeah, that was a good joke, right? Of the weird question nobody wants to broach of wait, do I still get my job?
Right, just because Shirogane got reelected doesn't mean I automatically join the student council again. So,
which is pretty good.
And as predicted, the new girl joins as well.
She's just part of the main core cast now.
Yeah.
Well, with episode 7, sort of. She tries.
We'll see. I was kind of disappointed my other prediction of Ishigami not making it into the student council, and then trying to get back in.
Yes, that would have been a good bit, but I think for better or worse, a character like Ishigami's just from a narrative standpoint, there is no way you can justify him being part of the main cast without him being
right,
lumped into the student council.
Right, their life is so tied up with the student council, it would be hard to do that.
But
it would have been a good joke though.
Yes.
And then so once they get the heavy stuff out of the way, they come out swinging with the comedy in episode 7.
Oh yeah, dude, episode 7 is here's the thing. I want to say this I want to say this up front. Usually the joke of a licentious misunderstanding doesn't really work for me in anime because most of the time it's a little hackneyed. They work that trope magnificently in episode 7. Just
yes, with such great dialogue as Siri search for man whore, and
okay.
Yes, how do I get him to secrete that? Which sounds even funnier out of context, but
I tell me more.
I gotta ask. I wonder if there's a weird cultural thing I'm just not getting with Ishigami's rant about boxer briefs. As a boxer briefs guy, I was not aware of this association, but Ishigami seems to hold some strong opinions about briefs versus boxer briefs. So
yeah, I don't know. Maybe when you're a kid or a teenager, somehow that seems more adult to wear boxer briefs than just regular briefs.
I think it's very telling that the last joke at the end is that
I kind of don't want to explain why we're talking about underwear right
that he's
now.
buying a pack of boxer briefs is the most oh yeah, totally, this is some primo male teenager insecurity shit.
Yeah. It's the fact that he immediately goes and buys some after that is the right. Yeah, so that was kind of the first half. We had Kaguya going horny on main there for a bit, and
dude, Jesus,
which was hilarious.
Yeah,
and then you know it's going to be a good joke when they pull out the ED with 5 or 6 minutes left to go in the episode.
Man, that is they committed to that bit. Holy shit! I I thought that was gonna be like a 30-second thing, dude. That thing is like the whole last third of that episode.
Yeah, so like the second joke, so the second segment of the episode is I forget who start. Is it Shirigani's sister that starts it? She reads this this shoujo manga that has her in tears, and then it kind of domino effects pass to everybody else who also is like incredibly moved by it.
It's very good.
So Shirigani's plan is to make Kaguya read it so that she'll want to fall in love so badly that she'll be forced to confess to him.
Ah, of course.
And so that was kind of a joke in itself that they could barely get her to read it because she's like, that sounds dumb.
I do want to say, before we get to the big bit of the last part of that episode, I will say I did appreciate a lot of the like smaller bits leading up to it, right? Like Fujiwara spoiling the ending of the manga. Like, she's just like, everybody... oh man, I cried so much when the character dies at the end. And just...
Right, making it even more understandable why Kaguya is like, that sounds dumb, because when you actually say the plot of those kinds of things, it doesn't resonate at all. Of course, right?
It is the classic. I mean, look, as somebody who, for example, reads a lot of manga and tries to recommend it to his friends, it is the classic conundrum of describing it purely in words alone doesn't always do a good enough job of selling, like, you know, why this thing hits so hard, right? Like,
right. Between that and not wanting to spoil anything.
Right. You do that thing of like, look, I know the premise sounds super basic, but you gotta believe me.
Just trust me. Yeah.
They do it really well. The characters are super compelling. And
yeah. So like, you think the joke is just going to be Kaguya is just not going to read it, but she does eventually read it. And they go to the ED, and when we come back from the ED, we're in a shoujo anime.
Her Shoujo Vision has been turned on.
I see.
And
full on like Rolls of Versailles.
Yeah, dude.
They changed the art style and everything.
Yeah,
it's just
they
like
entirely
different...
new character designs. And I had to look this up. Apparently, that section was actually storyboarded by like I forget his or her name, but a fairly famous shoujo anime like art director.
Okay.
Or a director, and so like
it looks like it's authentic.
It's authentic.
Legit.
It looks the part, right? It's not like it's not just like a shitty like I mean we say Rose of Versailles, but it's not just like a shitty haha shoujo anime joke. It is like we got an actual shoujo artist to do character redesigns of the cast,
fully committed.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It's amazing.
And it's not even like that's a joke that hasn't been done before.
Right.
It's just I think their level of commitment to it.
It's the execution and commitment, right? Like it's. I think it is one of those things where like, this is a joke that if you pop too early, it doesn't have the impact, and if you linger on, and if you don't linger on it long enough, then all it ever becomes is like a one-off bit. But like. Right. Them committing all the way to like shoujo sexy Ishigami is like just so outlandish. It's like the same man who was yelling about boxer briefs being man whores earlier in this episode, doing the full on like, I love marine life, and I could teach you a lot about it if you were to come with me to the aquarium.
They're trying to make going to the aquarium sound sexy.
It's really.
Bust out the harps and the.
Oh, there's so many roses and sparkles.
God, fucking Shirogane be like, forget that. I love penguins. I love the penguins at the aquarium so much. I even know the names of their handlers. It's like
He may be a master of fish, but I love penguins.
It's like, this is not sexy dialogue in the slightest, but they're so committed to the bit. It's unbelievable.
That's gonna when I do my top moments of the year list at the end of the year, that'll probably end up in there as an individual.
It's a good one. I mean, I think Kaguya-sama in general is definitely like this season specifically could. I probably won't do this because this is not like my forte, but it is the kind of show that makes me tempted to write a Kaguya-sama presents individual best moment.
Because there's too many.
Because
too many good ones.
There are so many good bits in this season.
Yeah. So. Oh man, that show's still killing it.
It's been a lot of fun.
And they've all but confirmed they are going to finish it. So
Yeah,
I think
I'm glad to hear that, and I'm looking forward to it.
we're actually going to get an ending, whatever stopping point they manage to find.
Yeah, I'm certainly curious if they're going to try again to kind of ratchet up the drama for the finale. You know, I think
I'm sure there'll be at least one more dramatic moment, to find us enough of a. We know for a fact we're not going to get closure, but enough of a stopping point.
The manga is still ongoing, so.
Right. And how they managed to keep milking this premise, I don't even know, but I don't know if it's just because, for all intents and purposes, Kaguya and Shirogane are basically dating anyway, that it doesn't matter, but I don't know.
The only thing I've sort of absorbed from cultural osmosis is related to the manga. People talk about Ishigami a lot more than I thought they would, and so I wonder if he becomes a more relevant character.
You think that he'll have a bigger role to play?
Yeah, maybe that's where it goes. But again, that's just
yeah. Another thing about it, he hasn't had like an arc or anything, right?
He's like the one character that hasn't really had a focus episode, I guess.
He's had like segments, but like
right, but even compared to Fujiwara, who is also arguably a side character, she has like so many episodes to her name,
or even the new girl. I mean, the whole last arc was
yeah. So I mean, I think so maybe for better or worse, he is the logical last character to explore in more depth once you've exhausted all the good jokes from everybody else.
Right. All right. Well, I am looking forward to more of that. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're not going to get too much more of the next show.
Oh, are you not looking forward to more of?
Time to talk about the less good comedies.
Yeah. So, Gal and Dino. We only had one episode because they have now officially postponed.
Yeah, which I think makes sense considering the heavy live action component.
Right. You definitely can't make those you can't make those from home.
So tell me, guys, at episode 7 of Gal and Dino, should I pick this show back up again?
So last time, the past 2 episodes I enjoyed because we were talking about how they kept the live action bits more in tune with the tone of the series. And once again, episode 7, I enjoyed. It was a really kind of cute, sweet bit for the animated part. Where Dino is where Kaede gets sick and Dino doesn't know what to do, so to try to cheer her up, he finds some street performer guy who's playing guitar on the street and brings him home. And and it's kind of nice and sweet, like the show is, and they kind of mirror that in the live action segment, except instead of musician guy,
yeah.
What was that, Iro?
Instead of just some busker, they bring in a handful of one-note, unfunny Japanese comedians.
Yes.
Oh, good.
So whereas my least favorite episode,
the Lion King guy, whose one bit is he sings the song from the beginning of Lion King, and apparently that's the joke.
That's his entire career is based off of that, apparently.
Wow. That's,
yeah, so if you recall, episode 4, they did this, and I absolutely hated it, where they brought in some weird comedian guy. So this time, they brought in 4 weird comedian guys that I did not find funny at all, and I did not even finish watching the episode.
Man.
You didn't miss much.
I stopped around the Lion King guy.
I guess I'm curious, what is, I hate to be what's going through the heads of the people working on this show, but, is it a licensing deal? Is it hey...
maybe just the director just likes them, and that's just his personal.
You're contractually obligated to bring these 4 shitty, unfunny comedians onto your show. All right, yeah. Is it that the director thinks they're hilarious? It's
just his personal preference, and I'm in charge, so I'm going to put whatever the hell I want in my show.
Might just be out of ideas. I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's just it's. I mean, again, as someone who hasn't watched any of this, hearing it is. It's confounding in a ways, I guess. They had such a good thing going with the time travel bit.
Yeah. Even if they had carried that on, it was okay, this is stupid, but at least it's so weird that it's interesting. and they kind of just killed that. I don't know if they'll ever come back to that after he burned the time travel book. But yeah, I don't know, man. And it's like you could have just. I'm assuming there's enough manga material. They could have just have a second segment of the good part. I would have been fine with that. So, I don't know. But unfortunately, it's not going to matter much for now, as episode 8 has been postponed indefinitely. It's joined the list of anime affected by the COVID-19 situation. So that's going to be it for Gallon Dino for now.
I mean, are you guys going to even pick it up, like, if it comes back? I mean, honestly.
Good question.
That is a good question, yeah. I guess it's going to depend on where and when at this point, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like shows like Gallon Dino especially rely so heavily on a sort of, like, cultural momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You think about, like, when we were watching Pop Team Epic, like, just week to week, it's like, what kind of,
Did you see what happened, what crazy stunt they pulled?
What awful, ugly, shit-posting bit will they come up with this week? That's part of the
voicing
appeal.
them this time.
Right. But so a show like Gallon Dino, which is trying to trade on a similar energy, like just stopping like this, it's like, and especially on such a low note, it's.
I mean, on the flip side, we may have literally nothing else to watch when it comes back, so who knows?
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's just going to be a matter of time and place, I think, at that point. But yeah, again, same old story though. I enjoy the animated bits. There's good stuff there, and I don't know why they have to tack on the other stuff, but
Yep.
We'll see when it comes back. All right.
Yeah.
Are you guys still watching, listeners? I should have asked.
Yes, we are.
We sure
beforehand.
are, folks.
All right. So episodes 7 and 8. What's has anything developed out of that so far?
They went to Londinium, which is just like
London,
like 70s, 60s, 70s era working class London.
Okay. What musical references did they choose to make on that one?
I mean, honestly, mostly Jimi Hendrix. So, which I mean, that's more because like the episodes are focused on the legendary pilot Jimmy Stonefree. So
right,
they're leaning fully into the Jimi Hendrix.
Who's apparently was secretly a earless all along or something.
I mean, they're doing the Eureka 7 twist. Like it's
the monsters.
There's a lot of that.
People.
There's a lot of that going around when we get to the B&A talk, but yeah.
And,
yeah, it's, so these two are kind of a pair.
Yeah.
It kind of does, like, one of the classic tropes of, like, the first episode focuses on, like, a side cast of new characters plus one reoccurring character, kind of, like, doing their own thing, and then, like, eventually, leading up to, like, this big climactic event. And then the second episode of the two follows a different set of characters leading up to those same events. Kind of a come full circle sort of thing. And, I think this is generally can be a pretty effective storytelling device. I think the problem is that hinges on us caring about anybody and listeners, which we don't. So it doesn't really work.
And, like, I still feel like I don't have any ground to stand on for understanding the world.
Yeah.
There's, like, I'm unable to, like, logically follow what's causing these things to happen or why they should be important.
Yeah, just the show's made no effort to try and ground us in anything, like, relatable or understandable, and, it's what we say every week, like, it just turns the show into, like, a weird collection of episodic vignettes where that studio just wants to show off how many music names they know, like, just, like, do you get the reference? It's like, yes, I do, but what does that serve to the narrative?
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
If your narrative isn't working without the references, adding them in ain't gonna do shit.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not. So even now, where it feels like it's starting to build towards a quote unquote proper plot again. it doesn't really land. It doesn't. I mean, it's never landed, and it continues to not. And it's, I don't even want to say it's a shame, but like, you know, there are some slightly interesting things that like Listeners does with its aesthetic, the way it appropriates musical imagery. You know, I think that, like, you know, for better or worse, I actually do think, you know, using like, you know, Cold War era London as an aesthetic to represent the like the central base of power in this world, fighting against the earless, like stuff like that is pretty effective, because that era of London is both iconic to the type of music that Listeners is referencing, and it's also kind of iconic to like the post-war era of our own world. And
right,
like, there, you know, you can do some neat stuff with it. You know, I mean, for better or worse, it is like this era of London is emblematic of the now very cliche "keep calm and carry on" era of the UK. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But
and it's also, if you're making a show about rock music, that's like an extremely important time and location.
Totally, it really is. But like, it just doesn't it continues just not do anything interesting with it. Like,
right. Like the concept is solid, but you're not executing on it.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I don't really feel like there's much more to say about it. I feel like actually what we should do, because it's not listed here in the show notes, but we should just use some of Listeners' time here to do our weekly Sakura Wars the animation check-in.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
Oh yeah. I actually did not put that on the notes.
Also, barely, like, somehow it holds together better than Listeners has.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a fucking mess.
A complete fucking mess, yes. I don't know why, I got a laugh out of me, because, like, it is the most fucking Japanese anime thing in the world, but this will get into like our talk about like Sakura Wars as a whole, but in Sakura Wars episode, I think 8 or whatever, like they finally have a review versus review fight. We have not had any of those up till now, but my understanding is those are quite a big deal in the game, and we are finally getting one here between Moscow and Tokyo.
Right, but we're fighting over who gets to keep the MacGuffin girl. It's
basically a custody trial by way of combat.
Well, no. You see, first it's a who wins 2 out of 3 custody trial by combat, and the first round is a dance battle.
Yes, except like, so yeah, it's a dance competition, which you're like, okay, sure, but then you quickly begin to realize, oh wait, the two people dancing are dancing completely different dances, right? Like Hatsuho is doing like this like very like, you know, like traditional Shinto shrine maiden dance, and then the Russian lady is doing solo ballet, and it's like, how do you even adequately judge this? And then don't worry, Sakura Wars has the answer for you in that, they would have been equally tied, but the judges of this event were all Europeans. Fucking dirty gaijin don't understand the transcendent beauty of our ancient Nippon dance. And so, of course, dirty, uneducated gaijin prefer their dirty gaijin ballet. And I just fucking howled. I lost it. I was like, fucking of course. Of course that's the explanation you go for.
Right. Then we just skip the second event, which is an obstacle course where you eat bread. They just skip it.
Right, because the Moscow leader forfeits the match because he's like, the
so
Moscow
undignified
combat review is known for its grace and dignity. We will not,
debase ourselves by eating your bread.
I mean, all it really does is make the competition a 2 out of 3. But, like, it's one of those things where it's like, that in of itself can be kind of a funny joke. But I think the problem with Sakura Wars is that scene kind of encapsulates our problem of Sakura Wars. Even when it's trying to be funny, takes itself a little bit too seriously.
It needs to be more. It needs to be more self-indulgent. Just go for it. Just do all of the dumb shit.
Sakura Wars needs to be that dumb, self-indulgent 90s anime kitchen sink, right? Like, it's really kind of. it is really weird how often Sakura Wars pulls out like the no fun allowed card on itself. And it's like, why would you self-sabotage yourself like that? Like, you literally handed yourself a great comedic presence, like premise on a silver platter, and then you said, no, we're not that kind of show. And it's like, but you are.
Don't kid yourself.
Like, yeah, like... Yeah. So yeah, it's a little weird. And then, obviously the last of the three is a mock battle. And then, of course, the Russians reveal that they were cheating and brought real weapons to the mock battle, and they...
And also, they have demons or something.
Right, yes, it's revealed that... because nobody would have guessed this, but the little Russian girl that our main characters rescued and are currently harboring is some kind of angel demon? I guess an angel. She has angelic wings. But, I thought only demons existed in this setting, but I guess angels do too. Is Sakura Wars just like a poorly written Shin Megami Tensei? Like, maybe.
That might be giving it too much credit, but
is there some sort of like war in the heavens, like between the primordial forces of law and chaos going on in the background? I don't.
Oh, who knows, dude? I don't know.
Yeah.
But also, like, this felt like almost a penultimate episode kind of deal.
Except we still have 4 episodes left.
We're only episode 8. The thing is, like, watching B&A, which is definitively ended, like, has thrown off my sense of time, along with everything else going on.
Right.
Has thrown off my sense of time, and now I'm like, oh, right, all of these shows are about to finish. It's like, no, we're 2/3 through.
Right, like, I had to stop and do inventory. I was like, oh my god. We still have a full third of this season left. Like, we're not done.
Right, so it feels like it's supposed to end next episode, but
yeah,
there's too much,
Kohei Tanaka soundtrack still fucking slaps.
Oh yeah, but that guy's great.
There's a good-ass track during this episode that feels like it's straight out of G Gundam or something, so I was quite pleased with that aspect anyway.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I have not really played the game too much more since the last time we talked. I played a little, like about a.
They also did finally recognize that the other reviews existed.
Because they're all watching this battle on television.
Right, until this 8th episode, we had seen basically zero mention of any of the other combat reviews. To the point,
there should be...
To the point where I was beginning to speculate with Eero, like,
they all
die in the video game? Because, like, there's no mention of them at all. Not even they're busy with something else on the mainland or something. It's just straight up zero mention. Like they don't exist. And I was like...
It should be, because, like, there's Shanghai, London, and Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they finally get a cameo this week, so...
Yeah.
Confirmed, still alive, I guess.
Because I'm still in the Combat Review Olympics chapter right now, where you're fighting all of them. So, all right. I know we'll have to get... because I think Chris either finished or he's way ahead of me in the game. He might be able to give more context when we have to get him on.
I think he's also watching the anime now.
And he's watching the anime, so we finally have somebody
some much needed context
doing both that can explain what the hell is going on. But yeah, I mean, it's at least a spectacle, right?
Not as much as it should be.
But also, yes, what Eero said.
Yeah. All right, we'll check back in. I'll try to get up more on the game, and maybe I'll try the anime. The way you guys talk about it, I'm not super psyched.
I mean, I don't know, man. If you say you've been enjoying the game, right? Like, if you really genuinely like the game, there might be something here for you.
Yeah, well, I'm enjoying the game in a very weird, specific way that I don't know will carry over to the anime. Like, I keep saying, I like its sort of janky PS2 B-tier JRPG feel.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how much of that is actually tied to playing the game versus watching an anime about it, but I don't know.
I don't know.
All right. We're still talking about Sing Yesterday for Me.
Boy, are we.
which we're still watching.
How's that been
At
going
least,
for you guys?
At least me and Iro are still watching. So, would it be fair to say this week?
I've not seen
show's
yesterday's episode, but
okay. Well,
I can't imagine it's that different. Yeah,
it continues off of the events of episode 7, but would it be fair to say by this show's standards they were turning up the heat in episode 7?
I guess, but still,
if by turning up the
hell.
heat means everyone about to make a move suddenly being filled with self-doubt and second-guessing themselves and nothing actually happens.
Yeah, I feel like nobody in the show deserves to be in a relationship with anybody else in the show.
Yes, they said no one in the show is prepared to be in a relationship. That much is clear. But yeah, we kind of have the whole driving force of these 2 episodes is I can't even remember
the
teacher lady's
name.
Look,
I go by there's main guy, we have the teacher, we have Crow Girl.
Okay, main guy, teacher,
Crow Girl,
we have
Safety
and
Pin Kid.
Safety Pin Kid. That's the main cast,
that's
right?
the main cast.
So the driving force of these
names.
episodes is teacher lady.
Right, she had a thing for Safety Pin Kid's dead older brother.
Right, which we've known for a while now, but she's now trying to move on with her life, and she's got the opposing forces of Safety Pin Kid doing the whole, I'm gonna grow up soon and I'll take the place of my brother thing, which is weird, and then and probably wildly inappropriate that she still hangs out at their house. And and her feelings for the main guy, which she's trying to, they have almost no chemistry with each other, as the main guy has no chemistry with anybody. But
there's more chemistry with his coworker rocker man.
Right, but plot demands that she entertain this the fact that she's in love. Yeah, and she almost invites him into her house.
Dun dun dun.
And backs out at the last second, and that's sort of the driving force of these 2 episodes as they're dealing with the aftermath of, trying to figure out what the other person's thinking and what they're thinking, and poor Haru gets totally crushed in these 2 episodes.
We have straight changed the ending sequence to a fake shmup where she gets owned.
Yes, it's so bad that they actually changed the ED to, which is actually pretty great, to be fair.
Yes.
It's actually a live action shot of an arcade cabinet playing a video game, and the video game is in an old school vertical shooter.
How does it compare to the Dorohedoro Doom Wad?
It's not
ED?
as good.
Well, yeah, it's not as good, but it's still pretty good because, in the actual game,
it's like boss fight against your rival.
Yeah, she's like the little ship flying around shooting UFOs in the town, and then when she gets to the end, she sees the other two together, and then she just gets destroyed by the boss fight, and then it just ends on her gate saying "game over." It's super harsh, but and that's pretty much what happens in the episode. Which you'll see in 8. What happens? It gets worse for her,
right?
Because main dude is trying to see part of one of the many reasons I hate this guy.
It's just leading on multiple people at this point.
Yeah, it's he's stringing people along.
Everyone is stringing people along.
Everybody's kind of doing it, but he is stringing this girl along, and he kind of, sort of, maybe implies that she should move on with her life in episode 8, and it's another. I have to say, again, as much as we continue to dunk on the show, I still do think some of the dialogue and stuff is pretty well written.
Yeah.
And the bit where he's trying to talk her out of following him around was actually, I thought, pretty well written. And those moments continue to be okay, but I feel like they're getting farther and farther between these days.
It's just kind of still spinning its wheels. And
Yeah.
I understand that's almost the point of the show in general, but
it's interesting because in some ways you can kind of understand why the characters feel the way they do, but in other ways it's extremely frustrating to watch.
It's definitely that tough thing, right? Of like, you want to portray a specific kind of mood or feeling, but that specific mood, like, goes contrary to what we normally consider to be like good, effective fiction.
Yeah.
And
Right.
how do you capture that while still maintaining, the interest of your viewers? It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, you still get bits, and like I said in episode 8, that are pretty good. It's just I feel like we don't get many of those anymore.
I still don't understand why anybody in this show likes anybody else in this show except
Right,
maybe
nobody has
Safety Pin Kid.
nobody has any romantic chemistry
Right.
with anybody
Like,
in
I
the
understand Safety Pin Kid's one-sided like infatuation, but
show. Right.
that's it.
Yeah, that one makes sense. But the rest of it, I don't even know, man. I do also want to shout out Kano Hanazawa once again, proving she's the best in the business, because she's been doing really well as the teacher lady. She has a lot of good acting moments over the
I will
past
say
several
I
episodes.
wasn't supposed to die laughing when she sees the kid's arm and gets flashback to dead brother's arm.
Oh yeah.
But I fucking lost it. It was so funny to me. It wasn't meant to be, but God,
Yeah, that
was
was
funny.
that whole situation is.
It's like because he was
wildly-
sickly and ill, and so she would always be at their home and see when they had to pull up his sleeve to give him the medicine or whatever. And so when Safety Pin Kid pulls up his sleeve and shows, like, look how big I am now.
I'm a big
She
boy
gets
now.
traumatic flashbacks to those times.
This sounds very
And
melodramatic.
just cannot forget this sickly older brother, Safety Pin Senior.
Safety pin senior.
Oh yeah, that was pretty unintentionally hilarious, but yeah, she probably should not still be hanging out at that house, but again, all right.
But yeah,
I mean, at this point, I'm committed. I don't know about you,
Sure,
Iro.
yeah.
We're in
Late
too
on,
deep
mate.
at this point.
I'll finish
So-
this fight, sir.
Got a full season and a half or so, right?
Oh, that's
God,
right. They're
yeah.
gonna they're gonna do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
All
going
right.
to be watching it past this season, so...
I don't know. There's still a part of me that enjoys moments of it, and it's
Still looks
maybe that's
good.
what's making me hang on. And right, the execution, like the technical execution, is still top notch too. But like I said, even just that, even the beside the art, the acting is good. That even if they don't have great stuff to work with, sometimes the acting is good, and some of the dialogue is very well written. It's just the general plot is so frustrating. So
Yeah. All right.
we'll tough it out though.
Uh-huh.
All right. Let's move on to Way of Listen to
we've
Me.
come full circle, folks.
I are they doing too much with the show now?
Maybe.
What do you mean?
But also,
are they
I'm
going a
okay
little
with
too
it.
all over the place?
I don't know, this just seems like what millennial life is these days, is just try to take on too
Everything,
much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about episode 7. They tie up the bit with the dead girlfriend in the roof.
And turns out that, as we all suspected, Minare is the architect of her own downfall every single time.
I appreciate how long they dragged it out. To the point where the police were involved and everything, and to build up to the big reveal.
poor
Which
guy,
again, I don't think I don't think any of us believed at any point that it was actually dead bodies in the
Oh,
roof.
no,
but
no, definitely not. But
it was just a matter of what ridiculous.
yeah, I was just curious, like, all right, how is this going to be Minare's fault somehow? Like, and boy, they found a creative way to explain it. A gross, awfully disgusting way of explaining it. Jesus Christ, I feel like anime usually doesn't go for this kind of gross out humor, and so seeing it here in Wave is a little much even for me. But I commend their commitment to it at this point.
Yeah.
Just the reveal that Minari was.
Forgot she had meat in the.
Forgot she had
storage?
like 50 kilograms of meat that her parents gave her, as a move-in gift. Which also, what a terrible gift to give somebody if you know they don't have a refrigerator to fit that all in.
Well, we've met her dad, so
yeah. And so she just put it in the storage closet of her apartment and forgot about it until it
Rotted.
And rotted.
I feel like 50 kilos of rotting meat, you would smell that for a block away.
Oh yeah, totally. The idea that Minari never noticed is I don't believe you.
Did they say it was as she was leaving though, when she was leaving the apartment, or when she moved in?
No, I think it was when she
remember.
moved.
Okay.
She moved in that she put it all in there, and so she lived her whole fucking
life.
Right,
she would have noticed that.
Not noticing
when she's look, there was also the leak, so it's at most 50% my fault.
Yes,
really,
good.
probably less.
yeah.
I mean,
she keeps hedging her apology.
That's a serious fucking leak. Holy shit! You'd have a right to demand You'd have a right to demand 3 free months of rent for a leak that bad. That's
ruined this man's life.
Jesus, but yeah, I just and just some very good Minari expressions in that episode. Just obviously there's a one where she's a dried out husk after seeing the police, which I thought was very good. But the one that I actually really love is the one she has while she's making her apology to the guy on the radio. And, it's the specific look of, someone who is, someone who knows in their bones that they have fucked up on a fundamental level that could never, under any normal circumstances, would not be worthy of forgiveness. And when she is forgiven, or at least the guy, agrees to not press charges, it's that look of anguished relief of oh my god, I am such a fuck up, oh god, please, thank you for not ruining my life the way I ruined yours. You have every right to fucking take me to court. You have every right to bleed me out for all I'm worth, and just thank you for not doing that. Thank you for being better than I could ever hope to be. And it's I don't know, extremely relatable in a lot of ways. Just
yeah.
But
so what was that guy's story true though about his girlfriend?
I think so. I mean, because Minari agrees.
Him, right?
I mean, that part. Yeah, I don't know. Yes, the reality is probably just she. Yeah, he got high on the gases and fell asleep, and then she was just like, "I'm out of here." What, you think I was gonna have sex with you in the middle of an obscure mountain in the middle of nowhere?
I mean, even if that's what happened, that's still a bizarre, hilariously bizarre story.
That said, I think I think the part of at least he thinks she went missing is true, since Minari agreed to do a missing persons report,
right?
For her radio bit.
I just like that they work in these random bizarre things, like her stopping the murder and with her first broadcast.
Right.
Right. It's
just random throwaway bizarre situations. But yeah. So that was. I mean, again, we didn't expect there to be a real body there, so that was kind of a fun.
No. I mean, the joke.
Fun twist on it, though.
Yeah.
Once we got the truth.
The joke is more just the slow realization is watching, and it was even Minari's own slow realization that this is all her fault.
Right. The slow moving car crash. Of it all. Yeah. So then we have. Episode 8, which
have you focused on the other lady working at the cafe?
Yeah. So creepy boss guy is back from the hospital with her her creepy brother.
Yes. Who would be a villain lieutenant in any other anime.
Yeah, as I described, this dude is a motherfucking Shin Megami Tensei law villain. Like,
yes.
That haircut,
keep the SMT
that demeanor,
references going.
Like, this is a dude who's like, fucking committing human sacrifices to resurrect Metatron to purge this unclean earth or something.
Yeah. I love what's his name, sister.
Nakahara's sister. Yeah, very good. Some real.
I love when she's. My favorite part of the entire episode is when she's talking with the beer can hanging out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Where like she's not holding it up with her hands. She's just like I'm assuming an empty beer can.
Yeah,
she's like
yeah.
holding it in her mouth.
It's a very like real person sort of thing to do.
Right. And they kind of bring everything full circle back to the bear fight in episode 1.
Yeah, we finally understand we finally learn the origins of the bear fight.
We get the full context of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess episode 8 more specifically, I felt like was kind of getting all over the place. But
I mean, I feel like it's kind of a setup, right? Like I think like. Again, another show we have to remember still has 4 episodes left, right?
Right.
Like,
right.
But I think it does a pretty good job of setting up what I think are going to be the obvious kind of plot threads for the remaining 4 episodes, right? Like,
right. Her ex
the brother is there, like right. So like, there's that aspect of like, what the fuck is his deal? And then yes, Minari's ex texts her, wants to meet up with her, and the preview seems to imply that. He is on the surface trying to make up with her,
right?
Like,
I'm sure it's not going to be that simple.
Oh
of course,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah, and I mean, there's a part of me that I feel like I shouldn't even doubt Minari here, but there's definitely a part of me that's like, oh man, I hope she doesn't fall for his bullshit again. But like, also like,
you know,
would it be
gonna happen,
would it be in her character as the perennial fuck up that she is to like fall for it somehow? Like, I don't know, like it's. But knowing this show, knowing the way it carries itself, I assume it will still be very funny and entertaining somehow, So
she doesn't need him anymore. She has her roommate.
yes, Mitsuho, the perfect partner, regardless of gender.
Her perfect wife. That's a good ongoing gag.
Yes,
but
yeah.
The preview did look funny. So
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I mean,
it'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
Right.
Like, I didn't mention it, but they kind of did the exact same thing at the end of Gal and Dino this week too, where her ex comes back.
Oh, really?
Like, but
Gal and
like
Dino
that was
played
like
it for like heartwarming.
Right. A much different tone, yes. But
right. Whereas I assume Minari's ex is probably like.
Is probably gonna try to scam her.
I mean, my only assumption is that Minari's ex will be introduced, so we go, "Oh wow, Minari's a real fuck up. At least she's not this piece of shit." But
or what if he actually is a good guy, and she just and she was the one that messed up the relationship?
That might be too mean-spirited.
That would be so yeah.
Because we've only seen her perspective on it, right?
True, but that would be such a. I feel like that would be such a fucked up galaxy brain thing to do. Like it would be so like as Eros is so mean spirited. It would be.
I wouldn't put it past the show.
Man, it would be so fucked up to do Minari that dirty. Like. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Because also, I think even if her retelling is biased. He did swindle her out of like 300,000 yen, right?
Right. I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't know. I feel like the show would really have to jump through a lot of hoops to justify that as somehow that was Minari's fault. So,
Right.
Also, one more thing. I just continue to appreciate that every time Minari's dad shows up.
Yes, I forgot to mention that.
Like, oh, that's where she gets it from. When he gives his extended bit about how Minari got her name, and it's the most just
dirtbag asshole.
Yeah,
way possible.
It's like, oh, that's where Minari got it from. Just
I couldn't remember which mistress to name you after.
God, what a
I combine them all.
Jesus Christ. What a... I mean, it definitely puts the one conversation Minari had with her mom into context when she's like, don't talk to your dad. Like,
right.
I don't even want to talk to him.
Yeah. Like, and were they implying then there's like the little flashback at the end of the episode that the comedian lady is actually her mother or something? Or
what was that? Oh, huh. I didn't...
I mean, there's probably a lot of ways you could interpret it that, but the very last scene was like a flashback with like the comedian lady that the station master guy keeps referring to, and she's talking about the name Minari or something, and what she was going to name her. Did she say it was like what she was going to name her daughter or something? I forget the details.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. They did. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
So there's some implications on that.
Yeah, could be.
But again, I don't know if it's that simple. Or
I mean, right? It's also. I mean, the thing is, it's also just as likely that just like Minari's dad was just going through a very weird imagined spot.
Yeah,
right.
Just totally making shit up because.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's the truth in this show sometimes, which is part of why I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird show where, like, despite like how relatively, I wouldn't say, I mean, maybe not grounded is the right word, but like relatively like, you know, relatively down to earth in the sense of like the problems people are going through are some real ass problems. It's interesting that a comedy in that vein would have this kind of weird surrealist bent to it of like
there's a lot of unreliable narration.
Yeah, a lot of
going on.
Like it's not the show I thought I would be watching going, wait, is this real? Is this real or is this like her imagination? I can't tell anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, right, and that's part of what I love about it.
Yeah, it's certainly something.
Yeah. All right. Well, another one we can look forward to more on that. But now that we've got the appetizers out of the way, let's let's get to our main course here.
Oh boy.
We're gonna finish things up by talking about BNA, brand new animal, and to recap last episode. I had finished it, you guys had not, and I had some general thoughts to say on it at that point. Since that time, two things have happened. You guys have finished watching the show, and I have watched Promare, which I think will add some additional context to this discussion.
In the show notes, you're going to list this as B&A, but I think what this really will be is the B&A Promare discourse, because
the state of trigger or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I think because and just as on the high level, because B&A and Promare came out in somewhat close proximity to each other, and it's very odd to me that two things that came out so close to each other by the same studio have so many overlapping themes, I guess.
Yeah, but like almost in many ways a very different execution.
Right, which I think we'll get into that. But I guess to start, since you guys just finished the second half of the series, I wanted to get your general thoughts on that to start. And I guess before that, quick recap. I did not like the back half of B&A, which we talked about last time. And I felt like thematically that it's kind of all over the place, and I had kind of trouble caring, didn't particularly care for the characters, etc., etc. You can go back and read the tape on that. But for context, that was my position, but I want to hear what you guys thought.
So, I think that the nicest way I can put it with B&A is that I think the individual parts are greater than the sum of the whole. I think B&A has a lot of really...
That's not usually how that expression goes, so that's not...
Yes, that is not how the usual expression goes, which is why I am putting it that way. I think B&A has a lot of really great individual pieces. I think that, as we said, the art is great. The art direction is fantastic. The animation, when they have the budget and the time, is really good. I think that the characters are often... they often can be quite funny and likable and compelling. And I think that the soundtrack is really slick. I'm a big fan of it. And I think that thematically, the show could be interesting. And so you have all these pieces that I think are honestly quite promising. I do think that, like, the individual building blocks that make BNA are quite well made. It's just that somehow, somewhere in the middle, where they get, blended and put together into like a single, like, cohesive thing, it never really manages to find its identity, its voice. And I think that is an issue that kind of dogs the show all the way to its finale. I think that it's how do I put it? Like, yeah, I guess one of the things we can definitely talk about is, like, the show in many ways feels kind of thematically confused. It
Right. You get because obviously there's a lot of real world allegories you could make with the beast people and and how they're. I feel like there's the obvious racism thing you could take, or I feel like there's some immigration issues in there when you look at their city. How they have their special city thing. And then I think things really just went downhill with me when they started bringing in the cult stuff, and like
it's a show that feels a little too stuffed for its own good. I think that there's just one or two too many plot threads competing for screen time. Honestly, I think that the version of BNA that is just about the cult, or just about the allegory, or just about the evil pharmaceuticals company, could be a pretty solid...
You can't have a cult and an evil pharmaceuticals company.
Yes,
pick one or the other.
It's asking for just a little too much, yeah. And I think that you see that in the way that the show finishes up. I feel like, to talk about the finale, I think that, the final episode, again, regardless of our feelings about the show as a whole, it's a solid final episode in the way Trigger does solid finales, right? In the same way that despite
it checks the check boxes.
It checks the boxes, right? In the same way that the Little Witch Academia TV series also had a very solid finale, right? You play the OP, all the side characters show up to help. The main character does the, like, Amaishi Gurren Lagann style, like, zoom in speech, like when they're, like, declaring their determination and their willpower. You got a cool fight. They don't go to. We should probably preface all of this by saying, obviously, we're going to be talking about BNA spoilers, and probably Promare spoilers too while we're at it, for the rest of this podcast. So, if you're still listening, at this point, you can watch and listen to the rest of our content at theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog, etc., etc.
This is the last topic on our list, yes.
Right, this is the last topic on our list, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers about BNA or Promare, I feel like we should just hedge our bets here, because we'll probably talk about both.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
And go watch Promare, please.
Yeah, go watch Promare. You know what? Go watch BNA too. Why the fuck not? It's 12 episodes.
Sure. You have Netflix already.
All right, with that said, okay. So the finale, I think that it does a lot of, like, look, there's a lot of fun things. The fight, I think, is real neat. It's well animated. I think it kind of does come a little bit out of nowhere, but
yeah.
But, like, yeah, so I think it's like Trigger. I think, and Trigger, even under Yoshinari's direction, is totally capable of doing. That final episode shows that there was a version of BNA that could have had that energy throughout the whole show, right? Like, look, man, like, obviously I want, like, cohesive storytelling and consistent, like, thematic, like, through lines, but also, if you put a crocodile man in your last episode double fisting Tommy guns,
very good.
I'm gonna have a good time. That whale just had 2 commando-style rocket launchers, just...
But then, like, on the flip side, you get, like, like when they get to the fight with the final bad guy, and he does the completely obvious reveal of, I was actually a beast man all
secret
along.
beast man, a secret super beast man.
There's a lot of that going around. But when he could have just done that, but he had to give a whole speech about he's actually like the pure blood type, and he used this whole like long explanation of why he's better than even just your regular beast man. It's like, we didn't even need that.
It doesn't work, right? And not only does it not work,
I don't care. You didn't even have to say that. You could have just said, I'm a beast man. I'm also a beast man, and we can kind of do the math when he's all glowy and everything, like what's his name, the wolf guy,
Ugami. Yeah.
We can immediately visually equate that they're probably going to be on about the same level in this,
right? Or even more. Like, I mean, Eero, maybe you want to talk about this, about how the secret Beastman reveal like kind of muddies like BNA's already kind of confused themes.
To begin with, I was unclear on why he felt the need to change all Beastmen into humans or whatever. It's like,
right.
It's like, A, there's the plan to make them all go crazy and smash up Anima City, thus proving Beastmen are inferior or whatever. B, there's the element where he wants to turn them all into humans because something. But then also all of this is muddied by him being a secret super beastman. So he's no longer just like a human supremacist who wants to get rid of beastmen. No, now he's a beastman who wants to get rid of less good beastmen.
Right, and it's like totally torpedoes whatever theme they were,
especially in comparison to like Promare, where
yes,
Cray Foresight being revealed as like a self-loathing burnish. Actually, I would say like strengthens the themes of Promare.
Again, it's like, I don't, look, let's be real here. Like, I think all three of us here really loved Promare, and we're not trying to imply that, Promare, like, had particularly deep or complex
right,
writing.
no, absolutely not.
I do think that, like, what you're saying here about stuff like Cray Foresight being a self-loathing burnish, right? A member of a denigrated minority who has internalized his oppressors' rhetoric.
Right.
That's like some weirdly Galaxy Brain level shit for Trigger.
Yeah, and I mean, you say that Promare doesn't have deep writing, but I don't want to discredit, like, I would say maybe it's not complex writing, but I feel like it tackles big important themes so much better.
The way I put it is that Promare has effective writing. Right.
And like I can tell you what Promare is about, right? Like, even and Promare actually does. It's funny because I was watching it after you guys were describing it last time, and like you're saying the message of like Promare is about racism bad, right?
Yes.
But I would actually take it a level further and say I kind of took it as we have to stop being selfish assholes or we're all going to die, and racism being under that umbrella, they can tackle things like racism or, rich people being willing to sacrifice other people's lives for their own benefit, or, climate change denial.
Right. I mean, there's definitely an environmental.
There's a lot of areas that Promare touches on in such a short period of time, but it's all under one strong thematic umbrella.
Right.
That all makes sense.
I think
and
a
goes
good way
together.
of putting it is that all of Promare's various thematic themes, like everything related to its various themes, are consistent with each other. The Burnish are the whole Burnish conflict thing consistently lines up with each of the thematic elements that Promare is trying to tackle. Whereas with BNA, the Beastman allegory doesn't really hold up well to scrutiny. Like it maybe holds up okay to one of the themes, but not all of the themes.
Right.
Right. The other things are just like, let's throw in this idea without any attachment to what else is going on in the show.
Right. And I think that so my big thesis on BNA, I think is kind of two-pronged in that I think the first issue is that just I think BNA was, it's kind of similar to what we said. It's just too cramped, right? Too many things are competing for attention. And as a result, I think the things that BNA would actually need as a show are missing. I was kind of talking this through, and we're kind of talking about how what BNA really needed was just like 4 or 5 more episodes, and what I think actually BNA just needed like 3 episodes. Like thematically, it needed to tackle 3 things. I think for this show to really come together, and I'm not saying that this would have saved the show, but I think it would have made it a stronger work overall. I think the first is we never get an episode solidifying Ugami and Michiru's relationship. We never get an episode solidifying them as friends, right? Like we get all the plot beats of the unlikely couple, right? You get all the tropes of the odd duo throughout the show, but they don't really have any impact because we don't see them as friends, right? Like to bring up another trigger work, right? How come the Mako Fight Club episode is so good, right? Like, in Kill la Kill, the episode where Mako becomes captain of the Fight Club, and she becomes a 2-star and becomes super rich and becomes delusional and like loses sight of like what really matters, and eventually ends in the cathartic making up between Ryuko and Mako at the very end, right, where she abandons her 2-star lifestyle, blah blah blah, and it's like, how come that works? And it's because they're friends, right? We care about them. They have a real friendship.
Right.
Every time Ugami and Michiru fight, or it's like, I don't trust you anymore, or like, even though I don't like you, like, we gotta stick together, it's like, you guys barely know each other. Like,
right.
Like, we didn't get a single episode of just those two hanging out in the city, like, just, we needed filler. We needed filler. Like, we just needed those two hanging out so we understand, oh, okay, even though they don't see eye to eye, they are friends, they do care for each other, right?
Right,
like,
they have some kind of, they have the same values.
Right,
they have some kind of connection.
We just needed one episode of that. Like, just one episode could have helped. Then, the second episode I think BNA is missing, we never get an episode telling us why Anima City deserves to be saved. Like, the closest we get are
baseball episode.
The episode where Michiru hangs out with the dolphin girl, and the episode in which Michiru helps out the baseball team. But other than those two, we never actually get a glimpse of, like, Anima City as an entity, right? Like, what are some of our favorite anime about big cities, right? Like, Blood Blockade Battlefront, right? Like, how come we come to love that version of New York? Because we spend so much time with not just its main cast, but the people who live there, right? The girl who runs the diner, the guy who eats the burgers, we gotta get chow, we gotta get lunch, right? Like, we begin to love the city because the city is as much a character as the main cast. We never get that with BNA. Like,
right.
I think it's very telling that every single time any of the crew from episode 5 showed up anywhere else in BNA, it instantly became good for like 30 seconds. Like, every single time without fail, because you're like, oh shit, it's those guys, right? Like the whole bit near the end where the raccoon is like, oh man, like is eating bread, and it's like, oh man, it's crust. Right, super crust. It's bread crust with this weird white stuff in the middle that I've never seen before, and that's hilarious. It's so good, but we needed more. We needed another episode like that, right? I'm not saying we needed another Amaishi directed episode, but we at least needed an episode that was like, exploring life in Anima City. Why is Anima City worth saving? Like, why are these people worth saving? Like, yeah, they're belligerent, and I mean, it's sort of. I think they really should have taken a page out of BBB's book, right? Of like that kind of New York thing of they're belligerent and they fight all the time, but you know what? We're all just trying to make it here in the big city. I think that
we need to know like what a day in the life of Anima City is like, right?
Exactly,
which we don't really know at all.
Never got that.
We can't answer that question after by the time the show's over.
And then, similar to the first episode, I think the other thing we never got, despite the fact that the show kept trying to convince us, is, are Michiru and Nazuna friends? Like,
yes,
talking about all they're friends. They keep saying that they're friends.
Right, they keep saying they're best friends, and we keep getting flashbacks while the ED plays. But like, again, like.
At no point do we actually see that demonstrated.
Right. Like, again, to bring back the Mako Ryuko thing, it's like, if you want us to feel bad because there's a gulf between these two characters who used to be friends, you need to convince us they were actually friends once upon a time, because that's what makes the gulf between them feel tragic. But
yeah, and that was like a whole nother tangent they went on with, like, when she was calling out Michiru for being, leaping in and not, thinking ahead and, just, assuming, making all the assumptions that, I'm going to do, you're assuming I want to do this and all that. And, like, again, they're picking away at their relationship when we as the audience have not experienced that relationship.
Right, so they just sound like a married couple that's on the rocks, like...
Right.
Like, you're trying to convince us that these two had a relationship once upon a time, but all we ever see them do is fight, so...
Right. Our only basis is some photos that they show every now and then, right?
It's and yeah, it's a tough thing, right? Like, I don't know. Again, I don't want to like cast blame or like say, this is all somebody's fault. But like, is it, is all this because like Nakashima is writing these two works so close to each other? Is it just the way Yoshinari handles like, his storytelling? Like I would
yeah. I'm kind of interested, because obviously these things are collaborative, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't pin it all on one person. And, even though Nakashima wrote both, how much is the big picture stuff coming from the director?
Right.
And Nakashima filling in their ideas versus...
And for better or worse, because we've seen Yoshinari direct a TV series before, it's a similar effect. Just, for better or worse, I feel more inclined to believe that it's just the way Yoshinari...
Like, that's what he wanted, and Nakashima's just trying to help him fill in
and it's like,
the details, but...
And again, it's unfair, because I don't want to be like, Yoshinari bad, Amaishi good, but it's just, like, even on a good day, Promare is such a hard act to follow. Like, it's...
that's the other thing, like, even just not the fact that Promare is fantastic, it feels like, did Yoshinari and Imaishi, like, communicate at all that they were working on
right,
what they were
the
working
fact
on?
That, like, Alan and Cray, like the fact that Alan is basically just like skinny Cray Foresight is like
it feels like they didn't talk to each other at all during the production of these, and you would think having Nakashima in the middle of them that he might say something.
You're like, hey, this sounds really similar to this other thing we're doing right now. It's
because they are thematically somewhat different, but you could definitely make a Venn diagram of the different themes going on in both of them, and there would be a lot of overlap.
I don't know, dude. I would almost go as far as say that Venn diagram is a circle. Like, it's...
I guess if you're looking at big picture message, they're pretty... How did two things get made so chronological? And who knows, maybe Promare was planned, maybe the actual writing of Promare happened, like, 3 years ago or something, so maybe it's so far removed that it didn't seem like it.
The only thing
they didn't plan it out with them coming out within 6 months of each other or whatever.
The only thing I can definitively state about what I know about the production of the two is that is in an interview, Amaishi apologized to Yoshinari because the production of Promare went overtime and apparently cut into what was supposed to be the production schedule for BNA. But
right, so we know Promare. I'm assuming the concept of the story was written years ago.
Probably,
at this point.
definitely.
They announced Promare back when they announced with Darling in the Franxx and Gridman. Right?
Yeah, it was the last of those three to actually come out. So
right, so that was like years ago now. So maybe it's just because that was written so long ago and BNA was written more recently. It's not like they were being written at the same exact time.
Right.
But that said, you would think with the foreknowledge of knowing what Promare is about, you would have taken that into. So now I can stir up rumors that Imaishi and Yoshinari aren't talking on speaking terms anymore.
I hope that's not the case, but it is. I think this happens a lot in the industry where where two completely different studios arrive at the same similar idea, right? Like. For a video game example, you could look at Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima, like two games that happened to get announced around the same time about samurai ninja shit. So this does happen because, like, ideas don't come from like a magical wellspring. It's usually like something to do with the culture, something to do with the times, has people thinking about similar things. The reason why it's so damning for Promare and BNA is because they're both written by the same dude.
Right, they're written by the same guy. It's the same studio. Like, a lot of the same people, I'm sure, were working on
right, like
both of them. That makes it a lot more strange, I guess. But that aside, it doesn't help. Then, we should of course judge these things on their own merits, but it makes the comparisons even harsher when you're looking at Promare handling similar topics so much better. And you can't help but draw the comparisons if you watch both.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
it's unavoidable. So I don't know. It's that just struck me as really strange that there would be so much overlap in such a short period of time.
And I do wonder if maybe it's just like, so this is going to lead into the second prong of like my thesis on like BNA, but I wonder if maybe they just didn't recognize those similarities because I think those two directors, Amaishi and Yoshinari, operate on more different wavelengths, even more different wavelengths than I had previously assumed. Like, the old wisdom is that, okay, Amaishi is he's the energetic, wacky one at the Trigger crew, and Yoshinari is like the kind of more calm, collected, technical guy, right? And I think that maybe also the way they approach storytelling, maybe that led to the, I don't know, maybe that led to them not realizing how similar these things actually were until, like, it was put to paper and animated, because...
Right, maybe when you're drawing up the big concepts for it, it doesn't sound the same.
Right, they feel different enough, at least at the time, but... Yeah, so, like, so here's how I'll put it. Like, one of the fundamental things that I think I realized while watching BNA, and again, it's hard to judge, definitively, because Yoshinari has only directed 2 TV series and 2 OVAs, but I think maybe the real difference between like Yoshinari and Amaishi when it comes to like how BNA and Promare turned out, beyond just like the technical aspects of like their budget and like what they had to work with on a technical level, I think is like it's less their technical skills and it's kind of more the difference in their sensibilities when it comes to how they pace and framework their narratives. And the way I've decided to distill this is into a single simple rule I've come up with, which is that, and I phrase it this way on purpose: Amaishi is always climaxing.
Okay.
And what I mean by this is that in most of Amaishi's works, his characters are always active participants in their narrative and are kind of always responsible for their own forward narrative thrust. So they are always kind of jumping from one mini narrative climax to the next that eventually leads to the larger overarching narrative climax. You think about like what do Simon and Kamina want to do? They want to break through the ceiling. Then what do they want to do after they break through the ceiling? They want to fight the Beastmen. What do they do after they fight the Beastmen? They want to defeat Lord Genome and the 4 generals, right? His characters are constantly jumping from like one conflict to the next, and they are the agents in their own momentum. Yeah, like kill a kill. What does Riko want to do? Find out who killed her dad. How does she do that? Beating up the various club captains, beating the 4 generals again, defeating Satsuki, right? Like, I joke, but like it kind of makes sense when you think about it, right? Like Amaishi's characters are always the agents in their own narratives, right? Whereas, even the one time in which Imaishi's characters are reactive, which is in the second half of Gurren Lagann when the anti-spirals show up, once the characters decide, we're gonna go beat the fuck out of those anti-spirals, it's just that for the remaining, like, 8 episodes, right? Like, they...
Right.
Whereas, I think with Yoshinari, the problem that both Little Witch Academia and BNA ran into is that their main characters are entirely reactive. Like, they don't, like Michiru is ostensibly here to discover the mystery of her disease and help out the people of Anima City, right? But she doesn't really do that unless it shows up at her doorstep. Like, in some cases, literally, like the episode with the bird guy crashing in through her roof. Like, she doesn't do anything unless the plot asks her to do something. And
right.
Same thing with Akko in the TV series, right? Like, she doesn't really do anything unless the plot demands that she starts doing something. And I don't think that's necessarily... I don't think that automatically equals bad storytelling, right? I think sometimes protagonists should be reactive. They should be put on the back step. But I think that when both BNA and Little Witch Academia are like that for probably 80% of their runtime, I think that's when it becomes an issue, right? Like, if you think about what are the good episodes of BNA, right? It is the episodes in which Mitsuru is kind of taking a more active, like, role in her own storytelling, right? Like, the baseball episode, once she gets dragged into being part of the baseball team, she goes all into it, right? Like, Little Witch Academia, the broom race, or when she decides to help Constance build the giant robot. Those are episodes in which Akko is taking an active role in her narrative momentum. And I don't know, I don't know, like, if that's just, like, the way Yoshinari does storytelling, or, like, it's just a coincidence, but I feel like it's an aspect that, at least to me, sticks out about the way Yoshinari handles storytelling.
Yeah. That is an interesting point that I did not realize until you mentioned it, but that is... I don't know if that's the only issue I would take with whatever is keeping Yoshinari from getting over the hump here, but yeah, I could definitely see that being a contributing factor, I guess. I just don't know if he can, if he's just putting together like I think you said it earlier, finding his identity, right?
Yeah.
Like, we know what an Imaishi directed work is like.
Yeah.
Right? You can watch that and tell, oh, this was directed by Imaishi. You can tell right away, right?
Right.
Like, I'm not sure if you didn't tell me Yoshinari directed, BNA, would I know? Would I be able to tell? I don't know.
I mean, all the flashy light effects in the last episode would probably clue you
well,
in.
I mean, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, his, we know he's an animator, right? I mean, he's one of the best animators to ever do it. So, like, nobody's going to question that. So, like, I mean, you can see things in his, visual style, perhaps. But, like, as far as a director, how things are, paced and how things are, all the good stuff directors do.
Right. I think a good director imbues a work with his identity, right? His creative identity, the way he...
Like, I don't want to get all into, abstract feelings and things, but, like, you don't feel his soul in it, like, I don't know. It's just...
But I think the thing is, we have felt his soul in a work before, right? We have both the Little Witch Academia OVAs, so, like...
maybe it's in a short burst.
Yeah,
then,
or
yes.
I guess that's the weird thing is, I guess I had assumed that the Little Witch Academia OVAs was his directorial voice, but BNA muddles that. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think you see flashes of that in the Little Witch Academia TV series as well, even if it's not consistent. Like, that's always been my problem with the TV series, is the consistency, because you have highs and lows.
Definitely.
Which I think were much higher than the ones I was getting out of BNA, to be honest. But
look, that baseball episode is really good. Okay.
Yes, but again, one episode.
Shouts to Kimiko Ueno.
Yes, can't deny the baseball episode's great, but that was one episode. I feel like there were actually a lot of good episodes in the LWA TV series. It's just across the course of 24 episodes, it wasn't super consistent.
There was like maybe, I think the way we put it is that there's like 12 episodes worth of good material in the Little Witch Academia series.
Right. Like, was it episode the the Suzy Dream
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, totally.
Like, it's one of my favorite episodes of anime ever.
If we
right?
really put
like,
it this way, then I guess it does kind of put BNA in an even more damning place. That at least with the Little Witch Academia TV series, everybody could list probably at least 5 solid episodes. Whereas with BNA, I think you have episode 5 is great, episode 1 is good, and the last episode is decent.
Right.
And
but aside from, maybe episode 5, I'm not really going to go to bat for those episodes. Like, they're good, but like I'm not like wowed or floored for them, right? Floored by them. So yeah, I mean, we see flashes of Yoshinari, what he's capable of as a director, and I feel like we just saw even less of them in BNA though, like compared to his work on Little Witch Academia.
yeah,
so
it's a hard thing to. I mean, look, as somebody who goes to Anime Expo almost exclusively just to see the Trigger guys, it is hard to watch Yoshinari struggle like this. Because I think he really is like a really talented guy, but I guess the Little Witch Academia TV series in BNA definitely starts to make me wonder if like he's just one of those guys that is a great director, a great art director, a great storyboarder. But
I mean,
I think maybe,
is it fair for us to expect someone who is one of the greatest animators of all time to also be one of the greatest directors of all time?
No,
like,
I
it's
mean,
not the same job, right?
Totally,
like,
right? Like, yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, honestly, guys like Amaishi are probably in the minority, right? Like, you don't look at, say, Yutapon at Bones and be like, hey, why doesn't he direct shows, right? You're like, no, he's a key animator. Like, that's what he does. And you give him a script, and then he turns it into visual gold. And I think Yoshinari is. I mean, I wonder if maybe Yoshinari is just cut from a similar cloth. Like he's not, because it is definitely a different skill set, and sometimes those skill sets overlap, right? I mean, kind of similar
but
with
it's
like Otto.
It's not a guarantee by any means.
Right? No, it's no
right?
guarantee.
Like,
and
yeah.
Sometimes you even have cases of like a guy like Amamiya who went from Inferno Cop to Gridman, and it's like I don't think anyone would call Amamiya like a. I mean, okay, here's the thing. He's actually a pretty good artist, but I wouldn't say he's like, a Yoshinari or Sushio level talent when it comes to animation. But turns out he really found his voice in directing. So I guess like it is not necessarily a one-to-one conversion. And I think, I don't know, I really hope.
I don't want to say Yoshinari shouldn't be a director,
no,
but
I want him
like,
to.
it just seems like it's not his strongest.
I just want him to succeed, okay? Like I want Yoshinari to have his Gurren Lagann, like for Amaishi, I think Promare. I really do love Promare, and I really do love Kill la Kill. I would never ever try to say those works are like not up there with my favorite anime, but also for better or worse, no matter what you throw at Amaishi, he can always just kind of sit back and be like, yeah, well, I made Gurren Lagann, so you can shut the fuck up. And I want Yoshinari to have that. I want Yoshinari to have his Gurren Lagann, his Evangelion, the thing he can, like, hang his hat on as, like, his crowning achievement. And, like, I mean, he has Little Witch Academia 2, The Enchanted Parade, which is,
nothing but a delight.
Fucking amazing. But I want him to have, like, a TV series to his name of that caliber, and I don't know, like, I don't know if, like, it's a hard thing to tell if it's like if it's an experience thing or just like I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I naively want to hope it's just a lack of experience, right? Like, but now he's directed 4 things, and it's like,
yeah.
Then you start to fear, is this just...
Is this what we're going to get?
Yeah, is that just kind of who he is as a director? And that is heartbreaking to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I have to wonder, like, is it just, like, a situation where he's just built up so much goodwill I'm assuming that's what he wants to do, is to be a director, if that's what he's doing, and he doesn't want to just be, just an animator anymore.
Right, I mean, there are definitely guys at Trigger who could be directors if they wanted to.
And he's got enough clout where he can say, I want to direct, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So... is that, even though he might not be their best option, is that just the reality of the situation, because that's what he wants to do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's also another thing of, like, I was floating this hypothetical situation, but like, would it have actually worked out better if Yoshinari directed Promare and had access to a full movie budget that let him cut loose with no restrictions, and that Imaishi directs BNA, because Imaishi knows how to work on a shoestring budget and make it work, whereas it feels like maybe Yoshinari's thing is that he doesn't know how to get the most out of a limited budget, because his best works are the ones where he basically had unlimited money and time. And
well, my first counter to that is I don't feel like BNA was lacking on budget.
Fair enough.
I felt like that aspect of it seemed pretty solid. Like like we're not questioning any of the technical merits of BNA, right?
No.
Like it's probably their best looking TV show, but out of the two that they've done.
What, 3, right?
Jesus Christ, y'all.
4? What? Wait, what do you mean? Like,
like full length. Am I missing another one?
They've done like 8 shows.
Yeah, I'm just talking about
like
originals.
But if you
want to talk about like
full episode, not Inferno Cop.
Kill la Kill, Kisniver, Little Do Me a Dolly and the Franks, Gridman.
I forgot
Do we
Kisniver.
count
I don't count Darling in the Franks. So.
And I don't know if we count Darling in the Franks.
Luluco, do we count Luluco? That was half episodes.
Yeah, that's not a full length.
Luluco falls. I feel like Luluco falls closer to the Inferno Cop end of the Trigger spectrum.
Fine.
It's better animated, but it's. Look, I'm just saying.
They did that adaptation that nobody gives a shit about. Also,
look, I'm just saying, in this cafeteria, Luluco sits at the same table as Inferno Cop and Ninja Slayer.
Right. So, yeah, so like, we're not questioning the technical merits of BNA, but I don't know if we're gonna. If we had swapped directors, I don't know. I feel like, again, so much of you can see so much of Maishi's soul in Promare. Like,
fair, true.
I don't know what that story would look like with somebody else.
I mean, I think you're right. I think it's just. I think for me, like pragmatically, I think Imaishi's personality shows no matter what budget he's working on. Like Imaishi could animate purely with just flash tweening, and you would still understand
right.
his personality would still come through. Whereas I wonder if Yoshinari is one of those kind of guys who like his voice just doesn't shine through until you give him enough money.
Okay, so that kind of loops back around, because you mentioned maybe BNA should have had more episodes. I don't think that would have helped it. I think you should have just had less stuff in it. And maybe putting time constraints on Yoshinari where he only has, an hour to 90 minutes would be to his benefit, to where he has to focus on, the
most core elements.
Right, one big idea.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is that would help in, maybe he should be doing movies or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a tough situation. I don't mean for us to be backseat directing here, but it's
right.
I think if nothing else, I think this speaks to I'm sure some of this was definitely an intentional marketing choice, but how much Trigger as a studio trades on its personalities that we would even talk about its individual directors this in depth, because I think that it is a studio with outsized personalities with really identifiable styles, and
I think there are other anime directors you could kind of do similar
totally. I think it's just that the reason we talk so much about like this whole Imaishi versus Yoshinari thing is because we know those directors so well,
and not many studios have like that many big name directors like under their umbrella officially, right? I
guess to maybe start to bring this towards a conclusion, I guess I will just say that if nothing else, like I'm really curious about where Trigger goes from here, like not just BNA but also a post Promare world, right? Like where do the careers of its respective guys go?
Yeah.
Like does Trigger now become a 3-director studio, right? Like, is it that do they just alternate between Imaishi, Yoshinari, and Amamiya? Like, is that just kind of the new format for...
I think you have to give Amamiya another
He's doing
crack
Dino
at it
Xenon.
as Gridman.
Yeah, he's doing Dino
Right.
Xenon, which got announced, or it's.
I mean, for something non-Gridman related, I think you got to give him another crack at it.
Sure. I mean, I would love to see what else he does. I mean, for now, if he keeps doing these really good-ass Gridman anime, then I say let him keep doing it, but...
And they're coming up on their
But
10-year trigger, I mean.
Oh, Triggers, yeah. I mean, again, I think that...
I mean, the question I put out to you guys is Imaishi ever going to do TV anime again?
Good question.
The way I feel
Are they going to
about
go
this-
to the Kyoani model of put your best director?
Oh, God.
Put your best director on the Moneymaker movies,
and put the fucking second string guys
and put
on the
everybody
TV
else
shows.
on the TV shows. Yeah,
I think that in a lot of ways it would be very strangely fitting if, in some roundabout way, Trigger became the lewd, rowdy mirror to
Takara.
to
Or Kyoani, yeah.
to Kyoani's. In terms of both studios trading a lot on a very like identifiable studio identity, like
right.
in the way that you could
I mean,
say that's a Kyoani anime, you could say that's a Trigger anime, and
Right, those two have the strongest like studio identities.
And
Of
the way I kind of
right.
thought about it was like, you know what, like if there's anything you can criticize Promare for, it's that at worst maybe it's Maishi doing a bit of a victory lap. Like he's just like, man, I'm really fucking good at this shit, aren't I? like I mean, it's just him doing the same old tricks. It is in many ways an Maishi Greatest Hits album, and the way I felt about that is, you know what? I don't mind getting that every like 2-3 years. Like,
Right.
if it's just like
I would like to see him something that doesn't start Kamina next time, but this one was.
I mean, my point is like, even if he is just doing the same old thing every time, that's a fun thing to watch every few years, right? If it was
Right.
every season, every year, maybe it gets old, but if it's just him doing what he loves every few years, that's a thing I think I could really find myself looking forward to every time it comes around. And then the question kind of remains like, well, what do Amamiya and Yoshinari do, right? Amamiya is still a pretty fresh director. I think we gained a lot of faith in him because of Gridman, but I think we still need to see where Dino Xenon goes, right? Like, it has a really promising staff. They revealed the staff and the character designs recently, and it's basically all the same guys, right?
Yep.
Like, so that's really promising, but we still need to see how that plays out. And then with Yoshinari, it's I don't know, maybe they should just kickstart the third Little Witch Academia OVA. I mean, that might be the safest choice for Yoshinari at this point. Like,
Yeah. All right. So on the stack ranking of best Trigger shows, where does BNA end up on the list?
I mean, I think it is probably the lowest ranked of the Trigger originals, but still ranks above all of the Trigger hired
What
gun
about-
shows.
I mean, define Trigger originals, because you could put Keys Kniver and Darling the Franks on that list too.
I would definitely put those below BNA. Look, man.
Right.
Like, yes, we have pros with BNA, but I think the thing I want to make clear, BNA is a 3 out of 5 show, or a 7 out of 10, whichever review score you
Whichever
prefer.
scale you like,
It's-
yes.
It's fine. It's not bad. Like, the thing I want to make it clear is that BNA is not a poorly made show. It is not an offensive show. It is not bad to the point where we dropped it. I mean, it is solid for what it is. It's just
Right.
not particularly noteworthy by the standards we have come to associate with.
It's a
this studio.
3-star show from people that were expecting 4 and 5-star shows from.
Yeah, and so like, look, I gotta be honest, I only watched like 2 episodes of Kids Niver. That was like when I was in Singapore and I was super busy, and I was like, this sure looks nice, but I don't know if I'll stick with this. And
I forgot it exists.
unlike Darling the Franks, BNA did not actively offend me episode to episode, so I would still rank BNA above that, if nothing else.
Sure.
Like, I'll put it this way.
But does it rank above Space Patrol Luluco?
No, it definitely falls below Luluco. Like, the stacked ranking now, if we're not going to include individual series, but like the franchises as a whole, it's probably Kill la Kill, Little Witch Academia, Inferno Cop, Gridman, Luluco, BNA. That's my personal stack rank because I made a deal with the devil that Inferno Cop always has to be in my top 3. So
Are we not counting Promare because
oh shit,
it's a movie?
Oh
or should
man,
we count
fuck.
Promare?
Where does Promare go in all this?
Maybe that's the more interesting question.
Oh,
I think
man.
we're probably all on the same page on BNA, but
I think Promare is probably like, for me personally, it sits around Little Witch Academia tier. Like, in terms of like, it is just a delight to watch. It's a lot of fun. It's unbelievably well made. I think for me personally, anyways, I think Kill la Kill just slightly ekes it out because it has more time to like kind of explore its characters and
yeah, I always prefer TV shows over movies.
Yeah.
But had Promare been a TV show, it might be number 1 for me.
I mean, that's assuming Promare could keep up that level of quality.
If it could keep it up for
26
right.
episodes.
That's a huge assumption.
I think
but,
Promare, in a lot of ways, gets to be what it is because it's 90 minutes. So
yeah. Ira, what do you think?
Of where BNA ranks?
Yeah, where would you put BNA? And well, what the hell? Where would Promare go?
Promare is like everything Imaichi's ever made in one movie, right? I mean,
yep.
Yeah.
Probably up there.
That is the spirit of Trigger.
BNA, it would not crack my top 3. Let me put it that way.
No, I don't think it cracks any of our top 3.
But I don't
it
think
even makes
it
our top
it
5.
cracks the bottom 3.
Sure. I mean, it's, again, I feel like even the worst Trigger original largely...
Darling Franks. Okay, keep going.
Shut
Keep
up.
going. Keep talking. What are you going to say about Darling and the Franks, G?
Darling in the Franxx doesn't count, and you know it. That's an A1 Productions. I mean, yes, Nishigori is honorary Trigger. I won't deny that. Look, all right, you know what?
They announced Darling in the Franxx with Promare and
all right, fine. Let's be fucking real. All right, we're all like hemming and hawing. Oh, poor Yoshinari. It's a shame that as a director he just couldn't really pull it together. You know what? Yoshinari is fine. Nishigori, that's the darkest timeline for.
We're shifting blame now.
Nishigori is the darkest timeline for a Gainax alumni. Like, that is the greatest fall from grace you could possibly imagine. But look, you know what I say when I'm saying that even like the bad Trigger works are generally still okay on like a technical and thematic level.
If you want to put the asterisks on Darling in the Franxx not being completely a Trigger production, I also don't want to completely absolve them from guilt either.
Oh no, of course not. I mean, they signed their name to that project. They know what they did.
Right. And of course, with the majority of anime fandom, it was tremendously successful. So who are we to?
Yeah, I mean,
question it, but no, we definitely should question it. It was bad. All right. Well, I think that does it for our exhaustive, comprehensive coverage of BNA, Brand New Animal, and the State of Trigger.
Yes, we got our Trigger Discourse. We got our annual Trigger Discourse podcast.
Have they announced anything else other than the Gridman?
No,
the new Gridman.
That's kind of why I said I think it's going to be interesting. I think if it had not been for COVID, I think I definitely would have tried to cajole Iro into going to Anime Expo with me this year. Because my suspicion is this year would probably have been the year where Trigger reveals what they're doing next.
I saw.
Coming up on
I didn't
10
read
year.
the details.
Yeah, that too, and Anime Studios love their big anniversary projects.
Right. I didn't see the details, but I did see Anime Expo is doing some kind of online thing.
It's not the same. It's not the same when it's
right, but I mean,
the Trigger guys get money guns and shooting Inferno Cop dollars at the crowd.
Of course, it's not the same, but there's still opportunity to announce stuff, right?
Man, what if? Ooh, okay. What do you think Trigger does for its 10th anniversary? Do you think we either get Inferno? Oh, we can't.
Well, Lulico is 5, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, what do we get Inferno Cop 2? But then I realized,
should it be Lulico 2?
The VA passed away, so we can't. Man, I'm real sad we're never gonna get any more Inferno Cop. That actually.
Inferno.
That really bums me out. Okay, fine. How about this? The 10th anniversary. Trigger's got like a big PV going, lots of lights and showcasing. And then Fly Away Now starts playing. Trigger got the rights back to Panty and Stocking. Panty and Stocking season 2, baby.
Let's be
it's
real.
finally happening.
It's probably just Sex and Violence at light speed. Like,
no, it's Panty and Stocking season 2. It's finally happening. That joke at the end of season 1, that wasn't just a joke. They meant it. We're definitely getting season 2.
I'm not sure I actually want to watch a second season of Panty and Stocking, but I want it to happen.
Just imagine.
Didn't that come up like sometime over the past year? Somebody asked about that, and they're like, they could do it or something. Like, it's not like they're not going to be like a licensing problem or whatever. But
the thing I heard is that basically, if the respective parties wanted it badly enough, they could make it happen.
Gainax isn't going to stop them, right?
It's just, I think at this point, Trigger is more invested in growing its own properties. But
I mean, I feel like if I offered like $1,000 to Gainax right now, they would give me the rights to Panty and Stocking, given their current situation.
We should look into that then.
So maybe I'll look into that.
All right, then they'll finally have enough money to make Blue Uru.
They'll have enough money to post bail.
This is the Trigger. This is the Trigger Discourse podcast, not the Morning Gainax podcast.
We're way over time here, which is fine because I wanted to air out. I wanted to air it all out on this topic.
Save Yoji and Okito from continuously working on Bungo Stray Dogs. Then maybe they can actually make something good.
Free Tsurumaki while we're at it.
Yep, free Tsurumaki.
The last Evangelion movie is never gonna happen.
Just have Trigger's 10-year be Tsurumaki and Okito surprise collab once more. And we're back, baby.
Oh, now we're just coming up with dream scenarios.
Before we get to some
crafting bullshit,
some variation of Biscuit Hammer happening, we need to close this conversation.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that'll do it then. Let's get our housekeeping. Check out our content at theglorioblog.com. Follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, and YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch everybody next time.